Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're an Angular developer or even just thinking about becoming one, then you know the interview process can be a journey. Well, I just went on that journey, and let me tell you, it was a roller coaster of core concepts, tricky edge cases, and real-world scenarios. It was intense, it was challenging, but I learned so much. And today, I'm spilling all the beans on the 25 questions they hit me with, complete with simple explanations and code examples. You ready? Let's dive in. All right, buckle up, because round one hit me with a barrage of JavaScript fundamentals. They didn't just ask what, they asked why and how. Number one, difference between shallow copy and deep copy, and how to make a deep copy using structuredClone, lodash.cloneDeep, and JSON.parse, JSON.stringify. First up, shallow versus deep copy. This is a classic. Imagine you have a treasure chest, and inside that chest, you have a map to another treasure. The shallow copy is like making a duplicate of the first treasure chest. But both chests still contain a map pointing to the same second treasure. If you change the second treasure via one map, it changes for both chests. Shallow copy is suitable when you only need to copy the top-level properties and don't expect modifications to nested objects arrays to affect the original. Or if your object array is flat, contains only primitive values. A deep copy is like duplicating both the first chest and the second treasure it points to. Now you have two completely independent sets of treasures. Deep copy is necessary when you need complete independence between the original and the copy, especially when dealing with nested objects or arrays that you intend to modify without impacting the source. Why it matters. Shallow copies can lead to unexpected side effects because changes in the copied nested objects will affect the original. Deep copies ensure complete independence. For making a deep copy, we have a few options. StructuredClone. This is the modern built-in way in browsers and Node.js. It handles many data types, including nested objects, arrays, maps, sets, and even some built-in objects like date. It's generally the preferred method. JSON.parse, JSON.stringify, a common trick for plain objects without functions, dates, or other non-JSON serializable data. It works by converting the object to a JSON string and then parsing it back into a new object. Simple, but has limitations. Lodash.cloneDeep. If you're using a library like Lodash, CloneDeep is a robust solution that handles a wider range of data types than JSON.parse, JSON.stringify. See? With StructuredClone and Lodash.cloneDeep, changing the copy doesn't touch the original. Super important for preventing unexpected side effects. Next up, symbols. In JavaScript, a symbol is a unique and immutable data type. Think of it like a secret, unguessable ID. Every time you create a symbol, even if it has the same description, it's a completely new, unique value. Why they're useful? Unique object property keys. Symbols are perfect for creating unique property keys in objects that won't accidentally clash with other keys, especially from third-party code. This is great for private properties or metadata. Well-known symbols. JavaScript itself uses symbols internally for certain behaviors, like symbol.iterator, for making objects iterable, like arrays and strings. A symbol is like a unique, secret key that can't be accidentally duplicated. So if you want a property that absolutely won't clash with anything else, symbols are your best friend. Free. Explain promises, async await, and a basic API call using them. This is fundamental for modern JS. Promises and async await. A promise is like a placeholder for a value that isn't available yet, but will be at some point in the future. It represents the eventual completion or failure of an asynchronous operation and its resulting value. Think of ordering food. The restaurant promises to deliver. It will either succeed, then, or fail. Promise is a receipt for something you're waiting for. It will eventually tell you if it worked or failed. Async await is syntactic sugar built on top of promises, making asynchronous code look and feel more like synchronous code. It makes our code much cleaner and easier to read when dealing with sequential async operations. Why they're essential? They solve callback hell and make handling asynchronous tasks like fetching data from a server, reading files, timers, much more manageable and readable. Async await is a way to write your code so it waits for that receipt to be fulfilled before moving on. Async await just makes it so much cleaner to follow the flow, right? No more deeply nested callbacks. 4. How Debounce helps in API optimization. This one is a lifesaver for performance. Debounce. The problem: imagine you have a search input field. Every time a user types a letter, if you immediately send an API request, you could be sending dozens of requests for a single search term. This clogs up your server and wastes bandwidth. The solution? Debounce. Debounce is a technique that delays the execution of a function until a certain amount of time has passed without any further calls to that function. Think of it like a patient waiter. If you keep calling their name, typing, they won't come to your table until you've been silent for a few seconds. Then, they come once to take your order. Why it optimizes APIs? It reduces the number of unnecessary API calls, leading to less server load, faster responses for the user, and a smoother UI experience. So instead of 4 API calls, we get just 1 after the user finishes typing. Huge optimization. 5. What's the difference between var, let, and const, and how block scope works using IIFE? Another JavaScript fundamental: var, let, and const. This is all about variable declaration and scope. var. This is the old way. var is function scoped, or globally scoped if declared outside a function. It also allows redeclaration and can be hoisted, meaning you can access it before it's declared, but its value will be undefined. Generally avoided in modern JS due to its sometimes confusing behavior. Let, introduced in ES6, let is block scoped. This means it's only accessible within the curly braces where it's defined. For example, inside an if statement, for loop, or plain block. It cannot be redeclared in the same scope, but its value can be reassigned. Const, also introduced in ES6. Const is also block scoped. Like let, it cannot be redeclared. The key difference is that its value cannot be reassigned after initialization. It stands for constant reference, meaning the binding to the value is constant. For objects and arrays, the content can still be modified, but the variable itself cannot be pointed to a different object array. Why it matters? Let and const lead to much more predictable and less error-prone code by limiting variable scope and preventing accidental reassignments. And for var to mimic block scope, especially in older code, we used an IIFE, an immediately invoked function expression. This creates a new function scope that runs right away, effectively containing any vars declared inside it. So let and const give us much more control and prevent accidental overwrites, which is why they're the standard now. 6. Example of multiple inheritance in JS, mixins, Object.assign, since JS doesn't support it directly. JavaScript doesn't have classical multiple inheritance like some other languages, for example, C++, Java. But we can mimic it using patterns like mixins or utility functions like Object.assign. Imagine you want a superhero that can both fly and has super strength. Instead of inheriting from a flying class and a strong class, which JS can't do directly, you can take the flying abilities and strength abilities as separate packages, mixins, and add them to your superhero. Mixins are objects that contain properties and methods that can be easily mixed into other objects or classes. They provide a way to reuse functionality without relying on a strict inheritance hierarchy. Object.assign, a built-in method that copies all enumerable own properties from one or more source objects to a target object. It's often used to merge objects or implement simple mixes. How parseInt 10hbt returns 10 because it parses until it finds a non-digit. And a quick head-scratcher, parseInt 10hbt returns 10. Why? The parseInt function parses a string argument and returns an integer of the specified radix, the base in mathematical numeral systems. It will read characters from the string one by one, converting them to a number until it encounters a character that is not a valid digit for the specified base. At that point, it stops parsing and returns the number it has accumulated so far. parseInt is like a super focused robot. It keeps grabbing numbers until it sees something that's definitely not a number. When it sees h, it says, "Nope, that's not a digit," and gives you all the numbers it's collected up to that point. Why it works this way? It's designed to be robust and extract numeric prefixes from strings, even if they contain other characters. Little trick there. Always good to know those edge cases. Then they threw a few quick ones at me. 1. Difference between EM and REM in CSS. EM units are relative to the font size of the parent element. So, if your parent has 16 pixels font, 1M is 16 pixels. If the parent changes, all EM children change too, which can get complicated. EM, I scale based on my parent's text size. Can be unpredictable. REM, root M. Units are relative to the font size of the root HTML element, HTML. This provides a consistent global scaling factor, making responsive design much easier to manage. REM is generally preferred for consistency. REM, I scale based on the website's main text size, more predictable. 2. Ways to center align a box. Oh, the classic center a div question. There are many ways depending on the context. Flexbox, the most common and flexible modern approach. Set display flex. Justify content, center. Align items, center on the parent. CSS grid, similar to Flexbox, using display grid. Place items, center on the parent. Margin, auto, for block elements. For a block level element with a defined width, margin 0 auto will horizontally center it. Absolute positioning plus transform. For absolutely positioned elements, set top 50%, left 50%, transform, translate -50%, -50%. 3. What is eval and why it should be avoided? Finally, eval. What it is. Eval is a global JavaScript function that takes a string argument and executes it as JavaScript code. It's like telling your computer, hey, take this text I just received and run it as if it were a normal command. Why it should be avoided. Security risk. This is the biggest reason. If you eval code from an untrusted source, it can execute malicious code on your user's machine, leading to cross-site scripting, XSS attacks. Performance. Eval is generally slower because the JavaScript engine cannot optimize the code at compile time. It has to reevaluate it every time. Debugging difficulties. Code executed via eval doesn't show up in debuggers properly, making it hard to track down errors. Maintainability. It makes code harder to read, understand, and maintain. The bottom line, there are almost always safer and more efficient alternatives to eval. Only use it if you fully understand the security implications and have no other choice, which is rare. Just stay away from eval if you can. There are always better, safer ways to do what you need. So if you're prepping for an Angular interview, my advice, don't just memorize, understand the why. Practice with small examples and good luck. If this video helped you out, smash that like button, subscribe for more tech insights, and let me know in the comments, what's the trickiest interview question you've ever gotten? See you in the next round of questions.